Hi, thanks for waiting. Today I wanted to speak about yesterday's Haftorah. The Parsha, the Torah portion, was from the selection from Shemot, which means names. However, it comes from the book of Exodus. And in the beginning of the Torah reading, we read about the Israelites that came into Egypt, Mitzrayim. Initially, they were quite successful. And as someone once told me, prosperity is cyclical and things took a turn for the worse. So here the Haftarah, the supplemental reading from the books of the prophets, also starts off with Isaiah addressing to the people that their ancestors came to Egypt. So it's have this thematic connection based upon the same verse. Okay, great. Who wrote it? Ezekiel. When did he write it? He wrote it before the destruction of the temple. The temple was standing in Jerusalem, and spiritual deterioration had been initiated, and he's trying to put a stop to it. That is Ezekiel the prophet. His audience is the Yerushalmis, the Israelite people living in Jerusalem. So we know where it happened, Jerusalem. We know when it happened, before the destruction of the temple. And his audience is both the 10 northern tribes and the 2 southern tribes. So it was no longer a united monarchy. And what he's saying is quid pro quo, measure for measure, that the Egyptians, the historical ones, not today, they were insisting that every male child be thrown into the Nile River. It's interesting. Somebody told me yesterday that people in Egypt, the pharaohs, they would look down. Why? Because the Nile River, when it would rise, that's their thriving and prosperity. The Nile River. So they would look down to see what's going on with the river. The Jewish people, the Israelites, would look up. Why? Because rain would irrigate the land of Israel, and they wanted to know that they were going to have a rainy season. So here, the Haftarah is talking about these mistakes that people were making, bad decisions spiritually about how to behave in the land of Israel. And needless to say, God wasn't happy with that they were misbehaving, that they were drunks and alcoholics, and they didn't worship God with a pure heart. They were impaired. So this is no way, as a God-fearing person, that you bring yourself into the temple to worship. So then is why I'm speaking about this Haftarah. I learned something very interesting. The text here says, from Ezekiel chapter 27, and now it's chapter 28, verse 9. Esmi Yoredea. The prophet Ezekiel is asking himself, Esmi, who do I even have to talk to? These people are blindly drunk. They can't even understand what I'm talking. Ve'esmi yavin shmua, and who could comprehend when I speak? They're like stupefied, that they're drunk from the alcohol. And he gives instructions on how to break bad news to people. Kitzav latzav. You could hear it. It's an onomatopoeia. It is step by step. Tzav, every precept by precept. Kav lakav. Everything step by step. And that way, the people can hear what they're being told. If you hit them hard and fast, they'll deny it. They'll reject it. So even now, Ezekiel repeats the exact same words a few sentences later. Kitzav latzav, kav lakav. And he's saying, if you want to get somebody to hear you, go gentle on them. And say it softly and say it slowly and explain to them that the consequences of not listening, what they are, and that the consequence, not the consequences, the benefits of them listening. And the Haftorah has a happy message that even though times are tough, the better days are coming. Shavua Tov. Thank you for listening.